or Joe, just let me know. Jen, are you going to? Yes. So there will be a member of the public who does wish to speak, who will be recording their element of the meeting as well, and they've explained that to me. I will do so in an unobtrusive way from the public gallery in line with the policy. So I'll hand over to you, Mr. Mayor, at this point.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the council meeting on Wednesday, 8th of July 2026 at 7 o'clock. We'll start off with public participation session. We've got some members of the public in the room, and we've got a member of the public online as well. Members of the public have up to 15 minutes in total to speak. So I'll ask for the first member of the public who wishes to speak to go to the nearest available microphone and speak through that, and if it's on, switch it on.
Testing. Excellent, thank you very much. So my name is Jen Lister. I'm here on behalf of Oswestry Pride, which happened on Saturday, the 27th of June, 2026, and I just realised I've put 2027 on the letters that I've given out. That's a bit optimistic. I'm just here to say thank you to Oswestry Town Council for the part that they played in making this Pride a success. It was the third year for Oswestry Pride. As the councillors will be aware, there's no public fund allocated to Oswestry Pride. It's all private donations, but a helpful attitude and smile really does help putting the event on. We really appreciate that the councillors assisted in cementing the council's intent to fly the Progress Pride flag during the month of June in the flag flying policy, so that it's cemented there. It really means a lot. There's a letter that's been given out to the members of the councillors outlining our support, our appreciation of your support, but just a few words. We would like to thank you for all of the support of Oswestry Town Council and its staff and members through the planning and execution of Oswestry Pride 2026, the support and unwavering commitment of the Town Council to representing the LGBTQ+ community of its town and supporting local individuals and celebrating their identity. Is truly touching and reassuring in times when LGBTQ+ rights are increasingly seen as a point of debate and political discourse. Just skipping a bit so that I don't, you've got it to read and I don't want to take up the full 15 minutes. I wish to especially applaud the efforts to include Oswestry Pride in social media posts, the efforts of the Mayor of Oswestry to come and speak at the opening event, which has been tradition for all 3 years that Oswestry Pride has now been happening for. And the collaboration and effort of Mr. David Clough especially to liaise with the Oswestry Pride planners to ensure the events proceed safely and successfully for all involved. There has been a worrying trend in a rise of hate crimes against LGBTQ+ people for their sexual orientation or gender identity, and it's a great cause for concern amongst the people in these communities. Many of us on the Oswestry Pride Committee have experienced hate crimes in Oswestry or around Shropshire. I currently have a case with the police that's still ongoing for a hate crime that I experienced within Oswestry.
Sorry to interrupt, Jen. I just want to check if there's anyone else who wishes to
I'll wrap up.
Just to give adequate time for everyone. That's all.
Thank you. Yeah. Just some brief quotes that have been left by people that attended. Oswestry Pride is the friendliest Pride I've ever attended, and everybody is so happy to be there. Oswestry Pride was my first Pride ever. It really struck me how lucky we are to have such a good open community. The atmosphere was amazingly overwhelmingly homey. I attended alone, but I spoke to other attendees during the parade. I've never felt so accepted, and it was so important to me to see older LGBT, but particularly transgender people living their lives happily. Being a part of the march was a feeling I will never forget. Thank you to everybody who made that Pride happen, and I will yield the rest of the time. Thank you, everybody, for your time.
Thank you, Jen. Much appreciated. If the next member of the public would like to go to the nearest microphone. If there's anyone online who wishes to...
No, I think online we have...
Thank you. Good evening. Most of you are aware who I am, but my name is Martin Jones. I and many of my peers were left a little bit disappointed by the lack, it seemed, of events around Armed Forces Week. It's depressing to see the mayor paraded around, but nothing for armed forces from him, certainly on social media. The Pride event is a wonderful thing and we should all embrace it. However, we are here as well. And there are a lot of ex-forces personnel and serving personnel who deserve recognition and help. This comment is not on pride, just the lack of consideration that it seemed from us, of the council, and its lack of inclusion for us. The two are not exclusive. They work together, and some of my friends are involved who I used to serve with. And more should be done, it seems, rather than just a flag. On the 5-year plan, I've spoken to Aaron, and you have completed it, hopefully under the guise of Oswestry Town Council and not County. And I believe that the minutes are online for us to read and respond to, should we. Our villages don't have the infrastructure to cope with the level of development that the 5-year plan is proposing. And we think that we would be better served by 2 new towns within Shropshire, or development confined to the major towns, in order to access better roads and linking, rather than have the abomination that you're going to have with the Mount and the unfilled houses that are currently left dormant on the new estate on Shrewsbury Road. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll just bring the town clerk in.
So thank you. Just for clarity, it is about the local plan consultation that the council undertook line by line, much to my despair that evening when I couldn't get the IT to work. So I think that's what you're referring to, Martin. So the minutes, that did go in and was submitted. Yeah, it was submitted, and the minutes are available online. Just a note on Armed Forces Day, because I think it's important to say that the council do contribute financially significantly to things like Remembrance Sunday and the events around that, and they provide all the funding for those activities. The council weren't involved in organising the Pride event. However, what I would say is that there's a willingness, and I know the mayor would be willing to do this, sit down with yourselves, Martin, or your peers, and discuss how we can support you to develop an event around this, to commemorate or mark however you wish to do. So I think you, Mr. Mayor, you've responded.
Most definitely.
Yeah, I'm just highlighting we do put a lot of financial support into that. I do appreciate that. I do appreciate that. But yeah, happy to speak how we can support you in delivering an event. We don't deliver Pride. That's delivered.
No, I just
to be
but there was
absolutely clear.
nothing on social media
No.
regarding
No,
service personnel.
no, and we recognise we should have put several posts out, but we didn't. Colleague was on leave, and all of that. So yeah, apologies.
As chairman of Shropshire Council, I was involved in the flying of the flag and the ceremony in Shrewsbury, and there are other ones around the county. And no, it wasn't at the castle, it was next to the Guildhall, the flying of the flag. I know there was the event at the weekend at the castle, but there was a ceremony in the town centre, and there are other ones around the county. What I would suggest might be a useful thing is to contact my deputy, who's also the Armed Forces representative, along with the Lieutenant's office, because other events have happened around the county, but not in Oswestry, and that would be probably the most sensible route down, would be to contact the Lieutenancy, because they do it in cooperation with the local councils.
Thank you, everyone. Does anyone else in the room wish to speak or online? Now is your chance. If you could come to the microphone, please.
Sure. Sorry, thank you. My name is Ian Campbell. I've been here before, might know me. Just on the plan, I'd like to say just briefly, as the rural parish, we've also questioned the data that the very thing was planned on, and I think that's worth looking at. Someone gave me an analogy that If a house is for sale, for example, on the Isle of Skye, that will be advertised. It's a population of 6,000, but you might get 100,000 people looking at it from clicks generated. Okay, and if you then break that down to all the news that you see on your rolling news media, 10 towns to live in, everyone gets on it and they start clicking. And I think an awful lot of the data that's being used and their heat maps and all of the language that they use, frankly, I think needs undoing, because I don't really think that there's a lot of data there that's actually helping. A bit of data that is interesting, 40,000 houses is 16 square miles of concrete. Okay, that's how big the actual 40,000 houses as a whole means, and it's above 40,000. I think it's 40,700 or so. And I think that's really important for everyone to understand. And then you look at the 355 houses here, you look at the mortar that lots of people are noticing for the first time in years, even during hot periods, has always had water running in it. We're now seeing that there is no water running in it. And I looked up to see where water comes from. I know it's the sky and all that sort of stuff, but what I mean is, how is it sourced? We have boreholes, we have Vyrnwy sometimes backing us up, we have water extraction from the Severn Trent, sometimes pumped out into Shrewsbury and then backed up back into Oswestry to try and help with water distribution. Now, when you look at possibly 2,000 houses in total, and you look at 300 litres of water per person or per household, you start to see that there is possibly a very big water issue to actually developing some of these sites. So thank you for your time. I know it's all chat, but I think there are some fundamental points, and I seriously don't agree with an awful lot of the premise that this plan has been based on. And if you go for a psychometric test, you'll see that they repeat the same question slightly differently over a number of questions, because they're fishing for the right response. I do hope you haven't given them the right response and you've actually given them something to think about, as we have tried to do in the rural environment. So, thank you for listening. Cheers.
Thank you. One more appeal. Does anyone else wish to speak either online or in the room? Nope. In that case, that is the end of public participation. You're very welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Item 2A, apologies for absence. Aaron?
So, apologies for absence from Councillor McKinney, Councillor Froggatt and Councillor Goodman.
Okay. I move we accept those apologies. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconded by Councillor Radford. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 2B, disclosures of councillors' interests of any matters in relation to the Code of Conduct. I will move to my left and ask people to disclose if necessary. Councillor Wendy Owen.
Hello, yes, thank you, Mayor. I'm a Shropshire councillor and I've declared another registrable interest in agenda items concerning the transfer of any Shropshire Council services, and I've applied for and been granted a dispensation by the Town Clerk to participate and vote on that matter.
Thank you very much. Councillor Mark Owen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ditto, basically. Shropshire councillor. I declared other registrable interests and got the dispensation from the town clerk to speak and vote on such matters.
Thank you very much. Councillor Radford.
Thank you. Exactly the same as the previous two councillors, a Shropshire councillor. While not for this area, nevertheless, I have been given dispensation by the town clerk to discuss anything related to Shropshire Council services. Thank you.
Councillor Duncan Kerr.
I'm bingo. I've got exactly the same. I'm also a Shropshire councillor and I've got a dispensation to speak on shared services and vote.
Thank you. Councillor David Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Same, I'm a member of Shropshire Council and I've got the dispensation from the clerk to speak on Shropshire Council services.
Thank you. Councillor Duncan Borroman.
Same again, Councillor Duncan Borroman, member of Shropshire Council, dispensation on transfer of Shropshire services from Shropshire Council.
Thank you. Councillor James Owen.
I'm also a Shropshire councillor and also portfolio holder for housing at Shropshire Council, but been granted a dispensation on all matters concerning devolution of services.
Thank you very much. Item 3, to seek approval of the attached minutes from the council held on the 10th of June 2026, OTC/04/26. Who wishes to speak first? Councillor Borman.
The section on the flags policy, which, I'm sorry, this keeps coming back, just that it says that my amendment was accepted and passed, but the amendment is actually not there in the minutes, the wording of the amendment. So anyone looking online can see the original version and they can see that amendment was passed, but they can't see what that wording is. I request that that is added to the approved minutes and also placed online as part of the minutes.
Thank you. Aaron?
Yeah, difficult balance when we're reviewing minutes, so it's a relatively sensitive area for clerks to go into, but absolutely understand that because it was a motion, it should have reflected the amendment. The policy certainly reflected the amendment, and as I've gone forward, but yeah, we'll adjust the minutes accordingly. But yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to raise anything? In that case, I move we approve, subject to the amendments proposed by Councillor Borman. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconded by Councillor Mark Roberts. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 4A, Neighbourhood Plan, Councillor-led working group, to note the minutes of a meeting held on the 16th of June 2026, NPCLWG/02A/26. Councillor James Owen.
Just to note that Councillor David Walker has been missed off as a councillor that was present in the meeting, and therefore if that could be amended on the minutes going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Apologies for Councillor Walker. He was clearly there. He was chairing the meeting. So just an update on those minutes is that the session that was held in Hope Church on the 22nd of June was really well received, well attended, and thank you to members for the support. And there's been a reasonable response from the public in terms of setting up a steering group. So it looks like that project is progressing really well.
Are you putting your hand back up? Yep, Councillor Owen.
He wasn't chairing the meeting, so don't add that into the minutes.
Anyone else wish to add anything? In that case, I move we note plus to add the further amendments by Councillor James Owen. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconded by Councillor Mark Owen. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 4B, to note the minutes of a meeting of the Shropshire Services Working Group held on the 24th of June 2026, SSWG/01A/26. Aaron?
So just be aware there's been an ongoing dialogue around the transfer of assets. It is a to and fro. It is a negotiation with Shropshire Council in terms of the terms of the transfer, the draft heads of terms that you've seen, but also on the very specific review of maps, the land to be transferred. And there is some ongoing discussion around particularly the leisure centre land and its suitability. That is ongoing discussion. I know the minutes say that the group recommended that it didn't go forward, that parcel of land, but reassure that will be a council decision when we present the full package of information at some point, which will detail, the boundaries, the final boundaries, the details of any consents over accessing the land, the wayleaves that are needed, whatever's involved in that will be coming to council as a full package of work for you to either agree, review, or not, as you see where. So just to clarify that, if that's okay.
Thank you, Aaron. I'll go to the floor. In that case, I move we note. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconded by Councillor Elmet. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 5. Council are asked to appoint one member to each of the below following the recent councillor resignation. First one, the Youth Services Partnership Panel. Any nominations, please? No nominations. The Appeals Committee. Any nominations, please?
So, happy for that obviously if we have an appeal, I'll have to bring it to you to appoint people. So it's easier if you do it now if it's possible. Very rare it'll happen, it's almost impossible it'll happen, but you know, that's why you're here.
Councillor James Owen?
Just, could we have a clarity? I think they can't be on the HR panel, so it's who's currently on the HR committee.
Do you know? Do you know who's on the HR committee? So if you know you're on it, you know you're not on it, aren't you? So do you want to put you?
Someone who's not on
We will-
HR or appeals.
We will briefly adjourn to seek further information.
Could we just
Councillor Kerr?
defer this item? We're going to have probably 2 more councillors elected, and they might want to be on it rather than somebody being pushed onto it. It's rather nice to have some vacancy available for the 2 new people who might join us, otherwise there's going to be nothing for them.
Okay, I move we deferred then. Can I have a seconder? Seconded by everyone. All those in favour? Deferred. However, following the resignation, council are also asked to appoint 1 member as a signatory to sign the schedule of payments on a rotating basis. Can I have a nomination as well? Any nominations as well? Or are you seeking that to be Councillor James Owen?
Could I nominate Ruth Simmons as the signatory, please?
Okay. So moved and accepted. Is Councillor Wendy Owen?
I was going to second that nomination.
So moved, seconded and accepted, but before we go to the vote, any other nominations? No. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 6, update from the Mayor. You'll be pleased to know no updates. Maybe next time. Item 7, to answer any questions in accordance with standing orders upon which formal notice has been given. Aaron?
None have been submitted, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Item 8, policies. 8A, standing orders. A notice of motion in the name of Councillor Walker. If I would just ask you to summarise.
I'm not going to read it out.
No.
Everybody's had notice, so that shouldn't be necessarily required, and I did read it out when I presented it. This is basically designed to give more discretion to the mayor or the chair of a committee to vary the timing of the public speaking session, the time they can speak, and to give better discretion in terms of weighting or prioritising residents in the parish or the town council boundary over people who are external to the town council. It's normal practice in 70% or more of other councils. The minority of councils do it either like we do it or they have a complete ban. And I'm not suggesting either of those is the right approach, but giving the mayor or the chair more discretion to be flexible and respond to the size of the business on the agenda, or if it's a particularly thorny issue like we're going to have the Mount planning next week. If we have a lot of members of the public coming to talk there, then as chair I'll need to weigh that up and give them either more latitude in time or when they're speaking, or throttle it back. It just depends on how many come. So it's to give more flexibility to the mayor or the chair when there are a few speakers, or when there are a lot in the run-of-the-mill situation. It's not really going to be material anyway. But if you only got one public speaker, then you can give them more latitude to speak for the full 15 minutes rather than the 3 minutes, and so on. Public speaking at a council's, it's not a legal thing. It's a discretionary thing based on NOUT guidance. So it's a meeting in public. It's not a public meeting, so it's not a forum. So it's like what we just had in this session. We've had a bit of to and fro between the public speaker and the room, and that's not what it's designed to do. I have concern that The way it's worded at the moment, it's open to abuse. And I would rather hear, when it comes to the mount, I'm more interested if there are members of the public there. I'd be more interested to hear what their views are, because that's who this council's duties to, rather than people who've got another avenue to speak to the same subjects. And I don't mind if other councils come and speak to us, but really they've got another avenue to come and speak to us through the clerk, through their clerk. And if the item is serious enough, then it can go on as a full agenda item, and then we can have a proper discussion around it. But throwing things in a public session where there's not necessarily a right to reply, or we can't add any clarification because it's not a debating session. I know we've had 2 interjections today to add clarity, but if you're applying it strictly under the way it's written, we shouldn't even be doing that.
Yes, Councillor Walker, if you could sum up, that would be brilliant, just for time.
I've summed it up. That's thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Before we go to the floor, I'll just ask, do you have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor James Owen. Councillor Kerr.
I appreciate some of the motivations behind this, but I think there's a lot of bureaucracy to solve a problem that doesn't really exist. If I take your first point of view of Mount Road, I mean, clearly that is an application right on the boundary of our town. Clearly it's going to affect people who live just outside the town, but it's in our town. And the view of our town, I would hope, would have part consideration by Shropshire Council. So it's perfectly appropriate for somebody who lives just outside to come and talk about an application that falls just within our town, and to have equal consideration, in my view, to anyone else. We've had 3 very good, I think, members of the public come to talk to us tonight. 2 of them, I know, don't live in the town, but they raise serious issues which are of relevance to the town, and it's irrelevant that they live or do not live in the town. I do not know whether Jen lives in the town or not. It doesn't matter. She's come to talk about an event which is very important to the life of the town. To implement this, all of those people would have had to be asked their address. It's not as easy as you think. I'm dealing with somebody on Glentworth Avenue who's been amazed to find out they live in Oswestry. They thought they lived in Mauder. The border isn't as simple as that. Some houses on Glentworth Avenue are actually in Oswestry. Just as I say, it's not a simple matter. We're going to have to start quizzing people on exactly how they live, and if some people want to play games of this, we'll have to verify that. I have to also say, we have to remember that this town council receives more income from people who come and park here than it does from people who pay their precept here. And the people who come and park here, many of them don't live in the town. Probably a majority of them don't live in the town. But they have a perfect right to come to the town and talk to us about the car park and the services. Ditty, we have many traders in the town who don't live in the town, but the lifeblood of the town depends upon them and their actions and their business. They have a perfect right to come to the bottom form of democracy, a town council, and tell us what they think. And we will do a response. It doesn't have to be a debate. They know, it's explained very clearly. It's just a chance to come and ask a question. And to take that right away, or to start to create a pecking order, I think is a reduction in democracy for people. Finally, I have to say, it's a bit rich, Councillor Walker, to bring this proposal to us when it would exclude you from asking the question.
Likewise, Councillor Kerr, if you could sum up as well, that would be brilliant. Thank you.
People here are eligible to become councillors who don't live in the town. So why should they deny that same privilege to other people who come and just want to ask a question? So at the very least, you should enfranchise in your prioritisation those who could become councillors because they have a business in the town, land in the town, or live within 3 miles of the town, because those are the criteria for becoming a councillor.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Oh, Councillor Wendy Owen.
Yeah, I think from my understanding of the motion, it's not excluding members from out of the town, it's just giving priority if there are more people from the town. I don't think it says anywhere that we wouldn't let somebody from the outside of the town to speak. It's at the mayor's discretion to speak. That's how I understand it.
Okay. Anyone else? Councillor James Owen?
I think also just to clarify that Glentworth Avenue is part of Oswestry Rural and not Oswestry Town Council.
Point of all, it's incorrect. 2 properties on Glentworth Avenue are in Oswestry Town. I can show you the map, 7 and 9. You can look it up. It's on the register. and they are in Castle Ward, Oswestry.
Let's stick, both of you, let's stick to the point of
Reggie
the
was
motion,
correcting me. I
please.
was making a
Yep.
factual statement. You can go and check it up.
Yep, no, absolutely, totally heard.
They've taken a case to Shropshire Council because their council tax is higher than their neighbours. That's why it's come to.
Right, okay. Councillor Mark Owen?
I'm sorry, but the phrase making a mountain out of a molehill is coming into my mind here. It's fairly clear what this proposal is. It doesn't preclude anyone from coming and speaking at this council. It is just giving the chair or the mayor the ability to prioritise within that particular meeting in the time constraints concerned. I don't see what the problem is.
Thank you. Apologies, Councillor Owen, I didn't go back to you. You may carry on.
Thank you. I think it's a matter of it's giving more discretion to the chair and the mayor. It's not taking away anything that's currently in the standing orders. Currently, theoretically, when you do give discretion, it's not in the standing orders, and we should be suspending standing orders to allow that to happen. So it's actually just codifying what already happens, and I don't see any issue with doing that to make sure that at any point, if the council is brought up on certain occurrences, that we can go back and say, look, it is in our standing orders that happens. So I'm perfectly happy to second and support this motion.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Anyone else wish to speak before we go to the vote? You have your right to reply, Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In reverse order, I'm legally entitled to be here and speak and vote. I'm not here as a member of the public. If I was here as a member of the public, I would say it's a bit of a stretch because I'm further away than most. But in terms of, it's not a ban on members of the public speaking from out of the parish, in the parish, or anything. It's just a matter of waiting. If you've got 20 members of the public wanting to speak, and for argument's sake, a person speaks for the full 3 minutes, and you've got 20, not everybody's going to get an opportunity. At the moment, if you apply the letter of the standing orders, you're going to have to throttle who can speak. You're going to have to make people choose a representative to speak for them. If you've got more flexibility as chair or the mayor, you can vary the time frame to allow more people the opportunity to speak if it's pertinent to the business on the agenda and if it adds value. In terms of process, what happens at other councils, including ones I'm on at the moment, and I've mentioned this to Aaron previously, it's only a matter of an officer of the council speaking to people informally beforehand. You're not getting people to declare their address in the public on a recorded meeting. If it's all done beforehand, then the mayor gets an idea of how many people have a need to speak, and then he can weigh it all up and prioritise it and give everybody the maximum amount of opportunity. Even today, the mayor's had to ask if people wanted to speak, but if he knew beforehand how many people wanted to speak, he can balance it out without necessarily having to curtail anybody from using their time. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We'll now proceed to the vote. All those in favour? Against? One abstention. Or two abstentions. Also, item 8A, a notice of motion in the name of Councillor James Owen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is more of a simple one. It's effectively two standing orders that aren't in the MALC code model standing orders. I think it gives more chance for members who aren't just ex officio planted on it because they happen to be deputy mayor. I feel personally, as the current deputy mayor, I'm perfectly able to read through all of the agendas and minutes to meetings that happen, regardless of whether I'm present, as any other councillor on this council is able to. I think it's not a burden, but given that both deputy mayor and chairs of other committees aren't necessarily reimbursed for allowances to take time off work, if there's daytime meetings, it is, especially for working people, it is quite a large issue if you're sort of expected to be at these meetings simply because you're the deputy mayor that year. As a mayor, you get 5,000 allowance to allow for a bit of that flexibility. And that's what that allowance is there for. It's to reimburse you for the sort of actions that you have to take as mayor and allow you to do that role, because it's understood that there is additional responsibilities to what a normal councillor has to do. So therefore I happily recommend that we do just I'm not going to read through it, but it's a matter of, I think it will give more freedom for individual councillors to be on committees right in the place of myself.
Thank you. Before we go to the floor, do you have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Mark Owen. Who wishes to speak? In that case, we proceed to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Abstentions? 2. Thank you.
So just to be clear then, so we brought forward the deferred decisions on appointments to committees. There will now be some vacancies, given that this motion has been passed as well. So when we're looking at the vacancies, there'll be more than we had previously. So it's probably a good idea to defer them.
Thank you, Aaron. Item 8B, Scheme of Delegation, to consider the revised Scheme of Delegation from the Town Clerk as instructed at the Council meeting on the 20th of May 2026. Report TC/4427/26. Aaron.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Taken quite a lot to work through this in terms of making sure that it's both detailed enough but also readable for you, and I hope I've achieved that balance. I think it's very clear things that full council can do, and that can't be delegated to committees. And I think there are I hope there's a clear set of recommendations for you to work through this evening. So just in terms of what you are doing this evening, is that you have set up or pointed to working groups, but you haven't, back in May, given them any powers to do so, to operate. What you're doing now is delegating the authority of the council to these subcommittees and groups. Okay, so just to be clear, what that is that clear? Have I explained that probably better in my head than I verbalised it? So there are some key considerations for you. In particular, you're asked to adopt the schedule of meetings for 26, 27. We will have to review the 27-28 allocation once we know how this is working and whether we need more meetings of a certain group or less meetings and how it all works out. So there will need to be a degree of flexibility. And I'll leave it to you from this point, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Aaron. We will go to the floor. Who wishes to speak first? Councillor Owen.
Thank you. I'm happy to propose that we adopt the scheme of delegation. I think it takes into sort of consideration the sort of thoughts behind what was proposed originally and gets it into a manageable and workable situation going forwards. I think it's worth specifically pointing out, for example, in January, where there'll be 2 meetings effectively where the budget gets time for the public to have a say, and I think that's better for scrutiny and for democracy, that you do have sort of not a backup, but it's a matter of you can have a bit of time to make sure that people are happy with what's been proposed before then finally signing it off when it actually matters, when it comes to their precept being set by full council later in January. I think it's also just important to allow for more time to be given by members to consider individual items on the agenda. Those that were at the planning meeting, the fact that we were able to go through line by line through the local plan, much to Aaron's disgust, it gave us the opportunity to go through it line by line. We couldn't have done that in full council without going on, probably doubling the meeting length and going home at midnight. So it's making sure that that can be replicated in other consultations and other policies, and instead of just trying to cram everything in once a month, it we can do that, and I'm happy to propose.
Thank you. Councillor Kerr.
Yeah, I think some of the chickens are coming home to roost on this when you actually look at the draft schedule of meetings. Clearly services encompasses everything the council does outside of planning, and between September and April it's going to meet twice. So the idea that this is going to streamline decision making, I think, is missing the point quite considerably. It's going to be a huge delay in actual actions being taken by the council and in the council's position to respond to issues developing in the community. If it wants to spend any money, of course, services can't do that. That's got to go to finance. So it's got to come from services as a referral onto finance, because finance has got responsible for budgets and overseeing budgets, not services, and for final decisions. So there's duplication there. So just thinking, you'll suck it and see, but this seems to me, and the line from Councillor Owen, that we'll be able to have the budget on the 13th of January. We've never had the data from Shropshire Council that will enable us to have a budget in time to have it prepared for the 13th of January, because it depends on Shropshire Council giving us the figures for the income that will be generated, and they've got that data. And they have a certain legal schedule to do it within, and they've got lots of other things to worry about at that time, so I'm not criticising Shropshire Council, but I'm just trying to say it is realistically only on 27th of January that you can actually set the budget. Only then do you have all the information available to you. What we've done in the past, and what we can always do, is have discussions over priorities and have consultation programmes. We can always have done that. But just think that for councillors who are not on services, there's going to be 2 council meetings between September and April, and there's 2 service committees. Do you really think that is democracy in action? We've just done a very difficult planning application. I'm sure there's going to be a lively debate next week. If that application had been in one other ward here, then no member from that ward would have been able to vote on it, because there's one ward here where no member is on the planning committee. And again, I just do not think that is the level of representation people expect from their Oswestry residents. So I think unless you can increase the meeting schedules, you're in for a very, very difficult time this year and next year if you persist with this arrangement.
Thank you. Who else wishes to speak? Councillor Owen? Yes, you may.
I think, first, just to clarify with the Services Committee, you wouldn't have to go to sign off a budget that's already been, in the budget, just to do something within a budget within the Services Committee. It's only if you had to do something that was external to the budgets that are going to the Services Committee that you'd have to ask for the Finance Committee to consider that. Secondly, the Shropshire Council data point, I would actually like to clarify with the clerk what data that you don't have from Shropshire Council on the 13th of January that you would have 2 weeks later, because as far as I'm aware, the tax base is already calculated at that point. Shropshire Council's own budget hasn't been set, but that doesn't mean that what we can set at Town Council is any different to what we could then do 2 weeks later. So on that point, I would just like clarification if I've missed something in my own understanding.
Not wanting to get into a debate, I just clarified the information I get from Shropshire Council that feeds into the budget setting process is a council tax base. There isn't a set date when we get that, but we generally get it. We've had it before we've set the budget in every year I've been here.
That just clarifies my understanding. On the not speaking matter, I think I've already circulated. I understand the current standing orders don't allow members who aren't on committees to come and speak. I think that's an issue with the current standing orders that we can correct and therefore allow all members to attend these committees. I think on any council across the country, all members don't vote on absolutely every decision that that council makes. The whole point of committees is you have a smaller amount of councillors who can make small decisions on issues while still hearing from other members. You're still able to send emails to committee members to put your point across. Hopefully with amendments to the standing orders, you will still be able to articulate for your residents in those meetings so that you don't get ignored unless you attend for only the full council meetings. And I think finally, as far as being very difficult over the next few years, frankly, it's quite difficult as it is to get through meetings with every single item on once a month, and certain members make it difficult trying to raise issues that don't exist and going to the press to say that democracy's been ripped up. So I'm happy to move to the vote.
Point of order. We'd like to be respectful. Which member has gone to the press to say democracy has been ripped up? Would you like to name that member? Because I don't know any member who's used that term. So we are... It is a point of order because it's a matter of respect, and we all signed a code to be respectful. And you made a statement, and I'm asking you to clarify who that statement refers to.
I'm not comfortable going down that route, I'm afraid. It's been proposed. I haven't asked for a seconder. Councillor Wendy Owen.
I'll second the proposal that we accept the scheme of delegation as written by the...
Thank you. And bearing in
the
mind...
schedule of meetings.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And bearing in mind the recommendations of this is to adopt the scheme of delegation as set out in Appendix I, to adopt the schedule of meetings, to align membership of members, working groups, partnership panels, subcommittees and parent committees, to note the distinction between the Kye-Glass Charity and Services Committee, and to note the position on the availability of papers on SharePoint, and to ask the HR panel to consider the need for additional corporate capacity. And also to consider amending Standing Order Number 4, subsection EVII, to read that the quorum for all committees shall be 2/3 of membership. The quorum of all subcommittees and working groups shall be 1/3 of membership, or a minimum of, but never less than 3. So just to be clear, those are the recommendations that are being proposed and seconded. Councillor Mark Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just going to ask about whether we could have a recorded vote on this item.
Okay, if you wish for it. Do you have a seconder for a recorded vote? Right. Okay then. That is absolutely fine. Will you allow you a couple of minutes to note everyone down?
So I will call your names out. Can you tell whether you're for or against or whether you abstain?
So start off on my left.
Yeah. So just bear with me.
Okay.
Councillor Ruth Simmons, for, against or abstain?
For.
Councillor Wendy Owen.
For.
Councillor Claire Johnson.
For.
Councillor Mark Owen.
For.
Councillor Rosie Radford.
For.
Councillor Richard Elmet.
For.
Councillor Mark Roberts.
Against.
Councillor Duncan Kerr.
Against.
Councillor Fiona Wilson. Councillor David Walker.
For.
Councillor Duncan Bowman.
For.
Councillor James Owen.
For.
Mr Mayor.
For.
I think the votes suggest that that's a recommendation to be accepted.
So vote accepted, carried. Item 8C, complaints policy. To consider Appendix A, the updated complaints policy. Aaron?
Yeah, so there's nothing to add to the policy. It's just good practice to do a periodic review. You have a report later on the complaints received by the council.
Councillor James Owen?
First, I'm happy to propose it. It's just on the addresses, could we include email addresses to allow, because currently it's just how to ask in writing to yourself or just to make sure that people know which email to go to.
Okay. Anyone else? In that case, I move we adopt with the suggested amendment. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconded by Councillor Simmons. All those in favour? Carried. Item 8D, financial regulations. To consider Appendix B, the updated financial regulations. Aaron?
I've got nothing to add. Again, it's periodic review. Good practice to do it. Yeah, happy to take any comments.
Okay. Any comments? Councillor Wendy Owen.
Can I just query, oh, I did circle it, on item 6.2 regarding the invoices for payments where the councillors are nominated to check through. Do the actual invoices get checked at the same time, so they're physically seeing the figure on the invoice against the spreadsheet that's produced, so transcriptions and things are also checked?
No,
Is that something that should be done as part of those regulations?
I think it's a little bit difficult for members to have to come and review those as already internal control procedures and what have you. I think it's just a general oversight and check as a process. If you do want to go down that process and come in every week and go through all the invoices, then that's absolutely fine. But it's a difficult process for members because officers have obviously been ordering the goods, and at this point you've had them, and all you're doing is paying for them. So it's a bit of an oversight and check as opposed to a detailed check against the invoices. That should happen at an officer level, and probably most appropriate at an officer level, I think, in my view.
Thank you. Councillor James Owen.
Right, I think I understand that, but the current financial regulations do say together with the relevant invoices, and therefore, if it's proposed that it's page 8. And 6.2.
So that first check is carried out.
Yeah. So it's the RFO shall prepare a schedule of payments requiring authorisation and together with the relevant invoice present the schedule to the elected members for checking. That's currently either not done, so it either needs amending or the process needs to happen in that order.
So I think that the most appropriate process is if members have any sort of reviewing the payments, the schedule of payments, have got any concerns, that they ask for the invoice and those are presented at that point, as opposed to having to go through everyone. Is that an acceptable control? So, and that has happened in the past, and then it gives you reassurance that if you've got any queries, we produce the invoice for you, you check it, and we can improve the financial regs that way.
Yeah, I was just going to ask if we could reword the financial regs to make sure that what happens is part of the financial controls.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Anyone else? Very good. In that case, I move we adopt those with the recommended amendments. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconded by Councillor Wendy Owen. Sorry, Aaron, did you want to add something in?
No, once it's fine, just one.
Oh, I see. All those in favour? Against? Abstentions? Right, thank you. Aaron.
So as difficult as my face might present when I'm challenged on stuff like this, it doesn't mean that I don't value the detail that you've gone into in the challenge. So, I do appreciate it. It's just sometimes from an officer's perspective, we have a different point of view. But that's all okay.
Thank you. Councillor Mark Owen.
Thanks to the town clerk for that. And honestly, we don't have a sweepstake in how we can catch the clerk out in some of these items.
Looks like you've been having a good tonight.
I didn't hear that. Item 8E, Fire Safety Policy, to consider Appendix C, the updated Fire Safety Policy. Aaron?
So, nothing to add. Grateful to Mr. Mayor, I don't know if you want to take the health and safety one alongside that. Both policies get reviewed periodically. Grateful to Henry. He has been through the qualification, Henry. What's it called? Remind me? NEBOSH course. So we have improved our health and safety arrangements over recent years. So yeah, nothing further to add.
Thank you. Councillor James Owen.
I just like catching Aaron out, so I run the sweepstake. Under the Personal Emergency Evacuation Plan, which is number 9, it specifically says that people will be put together when a member of staff or visiting public, but it doesn't mention members. And as a member with a hidden disability, it would be quite useful to have a personal evacuation plan, should it be needed.
Yeah. But you need to, I suppose the responsibility is on you and members of communicating that to us. It's not our responsibility of finding out. Yeah?
Councillor Wilson can't hear.
Yes, likewise. I absolutely agree. Can you, I suppose you could clarify?
I was simply just asking that a personal, the policy can just say that the personal emergency evacuation plan just mentions that members can also have one, because currently it just states members of staff or visiting public.
And I said yes. I said yes, agree with that, but just it needs proper communication, doesn't it, for that to work effectively? I think Henry was going to add.
Yeah, just for the health and safety policy, 3.7, mental health and wellbeing is a new addition to the policy compared to last year.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to add anything? In that case, I move we adopt the fire safety policy and the health and safety policy, appendices C and D, together. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconded by Councillor Mark Owen. All those in favour? Against? Abstentions? Carried. Item 8G, third party event policy, to consider Appendix E, the updated third-party event policy. Aaron?
Yeah, so just to come in on this for clarity, because you have now disbanded the Clyde Glass Management Group, that any reference to the Clyde Glass Management Group now needs to read Services Committee.
Thank you. Anyone wish to add anything? No. In that case, I move we adopt. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 8H, publication scheme, to consider Appendix F, the updated publication scheme. Aaron? Nothing to add. Okay. In that case, to the floor. All those in favour? I move we adopt. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconded by Councillor Radford. All those in favour? Against? Abstentions? Thank you. And now, item 9, notices of motion. 9A, a notice of motion in the name of myself and Councillor Simmons. So, we were all contacted by a group of residents from Gattaca, Maserfield, and even some from Carricklewood Ward. They all originally highlighted to us that some of the anecdotal and statistical and accounts of incidents which have happened in the town as of late. Originally, they were looking at the idea of bringing back a magistrates' court to Oswestry with its own petty sessional district. We contacted Helen Morgan MP, who in turn contacted the Ministry of Justice, or the Secretary of State for Justice, David Lammy. We were contacted. We were responded to along the lines of that it wasn't doable for Oswestry due to looking at modern ways of dispensing justice, either virtually or arbitrarily. So we've amended this slightly. We're looking at, is there anything that we as a town can do to aid the facilitation of an alternative dispensation of local justice in Oswestry for residents? So that's mine. So Councillor Simmons.
Now the thing is, moving forward, the idea for the government is that basically there are going to be three options. You either go to Telford or Kidderminster, which isn't a good thing because someone we know personally went to Telford, very elderly person, ill health, got there, but got back, and boy, was he poorly afterwards. Very, very ill. I mean, his doctor said he shouldn't have gone, but when you're called to give evidence, what do you do? So, two options. You either do remote, or you try and arrange for somewhere local to go and take part. But the only thing is, no one seems to be able to tell us, well, how is this going to work? Where do we go? You know, where are they going to have a room where you can do remote? So I'm planning on contacting Helen Morgan again to actually contact the Ministry and just to say, well, look, we need to know how this works. It's no good just saying in the future, you do this, you do that. We need the logistics. I mean, you're going to have elderly people, you're going to have disabled people. How does it work? We need answers. Thank you.
Thank you. So it's been moved by myself and seconded by yourself, right? So we'll go to the floor. Councillor Wilson.
A moment. I got it. I've beat it. How is it? What's been happening since the magistrates' court stopped, which is what, 10 years ago at least?
Well, basically, the nearest magistrates' court is Telford, or, for, depending on the seriousness, you have to go all the way to Kidderminster. Yes, yes. And even Helen Morgan has said, you know, it's a long way for people to go. I mean, you can look at it two ways. One, it's a long way for people where they're disabled, elderly, what have you. But there's another way of looking at it. It's knowing the area.
Councillor Sanchez. Yeah.
How can people that end of the Shropshire understand Oswestry as a town and what we're facing?
Thank you. Anyone wish to add anything? In that case, I move we adopt the recommendations. Okay. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Item 9B, a notice of motion in the name of Councillor Kerr.
Anything this fell out of discussion at the last council meeting, didn't it? And I just think it would be useful if we can formally approve this.
Okay. Do you have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Mark Roberts. Anyone wish to speak? No. In that case, all those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you.
So as there's a requirement to publish details on the website, so you need to let us know when you've signed that pledge, because this is an individual pledge as I understand it, isn't it? It's not a collective one.
I imagined that you'd write to each member with the pledge and say, do you agree to this? And we'd write back and say, yes, and that's our acceptance of the pledge. But we can do it a different way, but just in my head, that's what was going to happen.
I seem to recall, isn't there a form you have to fill in online or something? But
that's how I imagined it doing, you know, for Oswestry Town Council. And therefore, you've got a record very clearly back to the town clerk, that member has assented to the pledge.
That's fine. Aaron,
then not reliant on a third party.
I saw hands go up, so I'm giving people a chance to speak. Yeah, so that's what I saw hands go up, and I saw Aaron wanted to speak. So I'm bringing Aaron in to respond if he wishes to. Otherwise, I'll go to you to comment.
I was trying to work out the least amount of work approach. That's all. I don't mind as long as members are happy just to sign it up. Are you okay for me just to just think about the process and either send you the link for you to do, or I'll do a form. I'm not keen on doing the form, but I need to think it through, if I'm honest.
I think there's a very easy way for everyone as a Shropshire councillor, which is to ask us, because we were all asked to sign it at the May AGM, and I think we have all signed it. So just asking us all to confirm that we've signed it, we'll get over that one very easily.
So how did you sign it?
Officers signed it online for us in our presence.
We got hands up. Councillor Walker, then Councillor Owen, then Councillor.
They took us out at the interval in the meeting. They sat us all down we actually signed a piece of paper and then they did it on our behalf using our council email address. But so you can do something similar. I've signed it with effectively the Shropshire Council email address, and I've signed it with the Oswestry Town Council email address already. So how you manage that is different, but if you've got a piece of paper that everybody signed up and then you do it on their behalf, then it's job done, isn't it?
Thank you. Councillor Mark Owen.
This is heavy weather, isn't it? It shouldn't be, really. I think it would be a simple matter of just asking if we have, because there's no need to get a form together. There's no need to get to sign it on our behalf. Just say, have you done it? And we have. And then that's it. I don't think we need to put you in under so much work, to be honest.
Councillor, no interruptions. Councillor Johnson.
I think you voted, Mr Mayor, so I think it was just on the process how we move on, having got a way forward.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just going to say that there's the option as well to not have your name published on the website, so some of us might have already signed it and not published.
Okay, we'll consider that adopted. Item 8C, another notice of motion in the name of Councillor Kerr.
Yeah, I think, you know, we sit here, we obviously interact well with Aaron and his staff here, but there's a great many of other staff who work for the Town Council who we don't get the privilege of meeting as councillors. We may know them individually. And it's always easy to try to say that our staff are our greatest asset. It's sometimes hard to put that into practice in actual mechanisms for actually listening to and engaging with our staff. And there's no criticism. Aaron done a great job, and I'm sure he represents the views of his staff, but ultimately we are the employers in this regard, and organisations who have made good strides in terms of engaging their workforce do actually set out some sort of structure whereby representatives, chosen however they wish to choose them, if they wish to choose them, meet with some councillors to discuss any workplace issues that they're faced with. Because I don't know what it's actually like to work at cemetery, I don't know what it's actually like to work at the park, and I think it helps us as employers to have that insight. And at the same time to have their ideas, because some of those staff, who I probably know a bit better, do come to me with ideas. It begs my question, some of them may have very good ideas, but may not know any of us personally as councillors, and therefore don't get the opportunity. So it works on both places. It gives an opportunity for staff to talk about any workplace issues that are affecting them, or any worries they, in terms of their work that they have, but also to put forward, and indeed to receive recognition for any ideas or proposals they might have. Because they are eyes and ears on the ground, and they've probably got far more ideas about how the town can be improved than I will ever have. So let's try to find a mechanism that brings that. And I'm not talking about more than 1 or 2 meetings a year. This is not not another committee. But I just think we need some sort of structure whereby we can harness the best from our staff.
Thank you. Just a point of clarity, the report will go to the HR panel, not to council. Do you have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Mark Roberts. I'll go to the floor. Who wishes to speak? Councillor Radford.
Thank you. I think there is a grey area between where the councillors are the employers of town council staff below the level of town clerk. We give delegation currently to the town clerk to deal with all matters of a managerial aspect, and absolutely there's an aspect of hearing council voices, and absolutely I would agree with that one, and an ideas and suggestions scheme seems a really appropriate avenue, but the concept of a joint consultative council doesn't sit comfortably with me when I don't manage these people directly, and it's not my place to manage these people directly, and whether we are the right people for them to have an opportunity to discuss any concerns that they have with working for us. We employ a HR representative through Shropshire Council that may be more appropriate to provide an avenue away from the town council to understand issues and concerns that they may have. So while I absolutely agree that the ideas and suggestions scheme is a good idea, I wouldn't be supportive of a joint consultative council in the sense of using councillors within that forum. If aspects from HR or another avenue want to raise concerns, I think there is a better way of doing it. But the voice of our colleagues within the council is vitally important. And I can't put my finger on it, but I'm just not 100% comfortable with councillors sitting with other levels of colleagues within Oswestry Town Council and discussing managerial matters when we have a clear structure of management within our town council that we delegate currently to our town clerk and below.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to add anything? Councillor Elmett.
I think they're very valid points. I also fundamentally agree with the idea of trying to hear staff voices. My only comment was I think we should include that in the process of identifying how we do it, that we go one stage earlier and we talk to the staff first about how they would like to be heard and how that might work.
Okay. Does anyone else wish to? Councillor Mark Owen?
I've got no objection to the ideas and suggestions scheme. It's done in many places and to good effect. However, my experience so far, somewhat limited though it may be, is that it tends to be organised from the staff and the management structure, and it's the staff and the management structure that tend to operate it. And anyone further up, like board members, get the results and hear the good ideas from that scheme and don't actively take a part in that scheme. But that's my only experience, that's all.
Thank you. Does anyone? You may, yes.
I understand some of the Moses point. It may be the term joint consultative council. You can call it what you like. It's not intended to be something highfalutin and union representation and all that. It's just a discussion forum. And as those of us on Shropshire Council will know, the union at Shropshire Council is in debate on a weekly basis, it seems, as a leader of Shropshire Council over the policies of the council. And they are the policies of the council. They can't debate them with the chief executive because the chief executive is just implementing the policy and decisions of the council. And so as employees are affected by that, and they have a right to have a dialogue at least with the people making those decisions. And they can't with the clerk, because the clerk will just say the councillors have made, all he can say is the councillors have made this decision. And I think, you know, good decisions, bad decisions, whatever, I just do think if we're going to be open and honesty, if we are the people making those decisions, then there ought to be a mechanism for our own staff who are affected by that just to come and talk to us about that, or to share with us some of the issues about. And that's all I'm seeking in this. If the word Joint Consultative Council is too highfalutin, then a discussion forum, call it what you like. I'd imagined Aaron being there. It's not to exclude Aaron or the clerk from it at all. It's just to provide another understanding. We all are one team. We may not feel like it because we never get together as one team. It's odd, isn't it? You know, there's only 30 or 40 people who work for the council, but we never ever get together, council staff and councillors in one place. And I think that just sort of might tell you something that we could need to do a little bit more to bridge us into one team.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, the other point, I have a great idea to talk to staff about how we can best, you know, involve them and harness their ideas and suggestions. So, yeah, fully support that.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. All those in favour? Against? Abstentions? So that's all those in favour. Yeah.
No, I have done. So if the mayor's counted the votes, that's fine.
Well, let's. I need to see it again. All those in favour? 5, 6. All those against? 1, 2, 3. 3. Any abstentions? 4 abstentions. So it's carried. Thank you. And then item 8D, another notice of motion in the name of Councillor Kerr.
I did raise this as an email earlier on in the process, so I know there's a lot of motions in my name. I'm just trying to explain why it's come as a motion, because obviously I have my own views on your desire to move to a committee structure. I'm just saying if you want to be transparent and open, if you want to be able to defend the council against the charge that a group with a majority, and it could be any group in the future, has used that majority to gain an unfair number of seats, because there's nothing in law to prevent a majority group taking every seat on every committee. That wouldn't be a breach of any law. Therefore, we put into our constitution the same provisions that apply to Shropshire Council and all principal and Oswestry Borough Councils it was, and all principal councils, and they're set out in that government committees and political groups regulations, and it tells the clerk how to calculate how many seats on each committee can go to which groups. And there can be no argument about that, because in all my life, 45 years or whatever it is, nobody's ever criticised this piece of legislation to say it's unfair. Everybody seems to accept it, that this is a fair way of apportioning seats, if you've got a limited number of seats on any committees across the council, in a way that's balanced and actually protects those who don't want to join any group. Because the other issue is, why should I join a group? I want to just be a lone independent, but they're protected under these arrangements as well.
Okay. Do you have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Mark Roberts. We'll go to the floor. Who wishes to speak? Councillor James Owen.
I think the party I represent is Democrat in the name. I don't think it would be good for me to go against the principle of this motion. I have issue with effectively enforcing this policy on external groups, where effectively councillors are there to represent the whole council, not to be politically balanced within the council. As like you're there to represent what the council's decision is. I think it's quite telling the use of the word "your desire" when it came to a previous motion. Why certain members being on external bodies, clearly you put their own interests before the full council in these external group settings. So I think for external groups, we should be able to, the councillors that the council nominates is there to represent the whole council, regardless of political affiliation, based on interest and experience and how they can represent the council at that forum. So example, it names the Future Oswestry Group in the motion. I think I don't see how putting somebody of a certain political group onto that group will actually have any beneficial or negative effect to this town council. To that end, I'd actually recommend, if possible, to propose an amendment that everything past subcommittee in the full clarification at the end is deleted and replaced with all working group of the Oswestry Town Council, but not to any external group or partnership, and actually further propose that the policy to determine places and procedures around political groups is drafted by the clerk in consultation with the mayor and deputy mayor and brought back to council prior to implementation, and that implementation should happen from May 2027, where we'll be deciding placements anyway.
Okay, and does your amendment have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Orriman. Who wishes to speak on the amendment? Councillor Kerr?
Yeah, the reason for identifying the Future Oswestry Group, this is all about where delegated powers have been made, and we do delegate powers to the Future Oswestry Group. It has powers to make decisions. At the moment, it has 4 Lib Dems on it. I don't think anybody in their world would suggest that the most fairest way, reflecting all the balances of opinion in Oswestry, is by 4 members of one political group. But that's what you've got on the moment on the Future Oswestry Group. And that just shows what happened. It's always, I mean, it's one of those great tragedies of politics, isn't it? That those people with majority always think they're acting in the best interests of everybody by allocating seats. Unfortunately, if you're going to demonstrate that, then you have to adopt a system which is proportional, and a proportional system would say if a group has, I don't know, 50%, it'll have 1 seat, or if there's 2 vacancies available, it's rounded accordingly. So it may well be possible for Lib Dems to have 2 seats from the Town Council and Future Oswestry Group. Mathematics will determine that for you. That is fair and equitable, rather than the majority. And for those groups, and I know your party has, and our party has, campaigned for PR for a long, long time.
Councillor Kerr, if you could sum up, please.
Majority of all. The other issue is, so he's taken out that has delegated powers, was missed off. I don't know if he intended to miss it off. I don't intend this to imply to working parties that don't have. The Youth Forum, for instance, doesn't have any delegated powers, so there's no need for it to be politically balanced. You've taken it off. Don't know if you intended to do that, but I would suggest to you that I think we only need to restrict this to where we are giving a committee or a subcommittee delegated powers, because that's where the issue arises.
Before I go to anyone else, I should have asked, do you and the seconder accept the amendment?
I don't on that, because I've just argued that, and I don't see why this has to wait to May 2027. We're clearly going to have to do a lot of rearranging of people on various committees, because you've just taken the vice chairman off. We're going to have guidance that we might as well sort it all out at one stage and implement this as soon as practical.
Likewise for the seconder? No, doesn't matter. Okay, in that case, we'll go to Councillor Owen, then Councillor Walker, and then we will vote on the amendment. Yes.
Reply, having moved the amendment. I
Councillor-
moved the motion, there was a speech. I assume there were no more speeches, so I moved my right of response. We're now getting more speeches.
Councillors. Councillors. Councillor Mark Owen. Thank you.
First of all, I think the statement that about the Lib Dems taking control because there's so many of them is a bit gratuitous. I mean, last May there were 17 Lib Dems and 1 Green. Is Councillor Kerr actually blaming the residents for actually voting that way?
Let's not.
Chairman,
Let's not make this a conversation with each other,
I don't even
please.
recognise the quote. Under the quote, there's too many Lib Dems. I never said there was too many Lib Dems. I'm just saying that the 4 Lib Dems on the Futurosity group when there are only 4 places is disproportionate. That's a different thing. And so I just, point of order, he's making a speech based on a sentence I didn't say.
Okay, councillors, enough.
Apologies, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Sorry, do you know?
Just in terms of clarification, if you're going to introduce proportionality rules, it's based on the total number of available seats. And then it's done by proportion, and the largest group gets to pick which seats they want to have, and then the smaller groups get to pick in order of size. I'm assuming in terms of FOG, you could still get exactly the same position. Because if the majority group had decided they want to have the seats on FOG, then you still wouldn't have a seat on FOG.
No interruptions.
Order, I've been so,
enough.
Point of order, I've been
Point
the
of
Chief
order.
Secretary, I've actually applied these rules. Yes, it does. If you look at Shropshire Council, it works on an individual committee basis. What sometimes happens is the number of seats... Sorry,
I want to hear it. Enough.
I'm just saying it's incorrect to say that if you applied the Act and the regulations thereunder, you would have a situation where the majority group could choose which seats they wanted across all committees. That's not the case. The case is they're allocated across each committee. I'm on the People Overview and Scrutiny Committee, for instance. Lib Dems, I think, have 7 people on that. The Reform Party have 3 people, the Conservatives have 2, and the Greens have 1. That's how the allocation is. You can look it up for yourself. So it works on an individual committee basis. You can't say we want all 11 seats on that committee and we won't have any on that. You can't do that. It's proportional on each committee.
Right, we're going back to Councillor Walker because I interrupted him, then Councillor Owen, and then we're going to the vote on the amendment. And your right to reply as well. And your right to sum up. Councillor Walker. Councillor, right to sum up, and then your right to sum up as well. Your right to reply.
A few things here. The number on FOG doesn't actually apply because half of those are actually appointed by Shropshire Council and not by Oswestry Town Council, so it's an irrelevant argument. Secondly, the relevant legislation does not, Councillor Kerr has said that no one ever argues with, is totally about committees of a council and is not about appointments to external bodies. So lobbying in the external bodies thing is an extra thing to legislation that appoints, and don't interrupt me with a point of order, that applies elsewhere. And finally, on section 5D of the relevant act, it says, subject, paragraphs A and C above, the number of seats of the body which are allocated to each political group bears the same proportionate number of all the seats on the that body as is borne by the number of members of that group to the membership of the authority. So yes, overall it is proportionate to the total membership of the authority. So even though it is done by committee, Councillor Walker is right. I have also been through this at other authorities. So I would say, in seconding Councillor Owen's amendment, that the whole bit about external bodies and the fact that Councillor Kerr has a chip on his shoulder that he's come off FOG. The fact is the appointment of FOG is down to half of the appointments being from Shropshire Council and half of them being from Oswestry Town Council.
Thank you. Councillor Kerr.
Just to sum up, yes, I'm only dealing with the appointments we make to the future Oswestry Group. Clearly, we make 2 appointments, currently 2 Lib Dems, proportionality would apply to that. In terms of external bodies, you know you're chairman of Shropshire Council. We apply proportionality to the fire authority that me and Rosie sit on. That's proportionally allocated, a separate authority, and to the police authority as well. In both cases, that's done by proportionality under these same regulations. So it's completely incorrect to say these are not applied to external bodies. They are where they've got delegated powers. And you should really know this because you're chairman of Shropshire Council. So it's approved by Shropshire Council.
I absolutely agree. There's been a lot of tension tonight amongst yourselves. So can we ask that everyone is mindful and respectful of each other when communicating? No personal attacks, no huffing and puffing. Let's do what we're here to do, please. Thank you. So now we go to the vote. All those in favour of the amendment? The amendment, that's what I mean, to go the vote on the amendment, yes. All those in favour of the amendment? Against? 1 abstention. Oh, 2 abstention. Well, I'm abstaining as well. So
that then becomes a substantive motion. It might be useful just for, so we've captured it on a recording and so we can make sure we capture the amendment correctly in the minutes so we just don't do other stuff. Just if you could repeat it, Councillor Owen, just so we've got it clear for the minutes. I'm happy for you to email it if members are happy with that.
Because you could email anything to you. To be honest, we have to make decisions.
Let's
We have to
hear it,
know
Councillor
what
Owen.
we're deciding, not in an email afterwards.
So the substantive motion would now be the same, other than for clarification, these provisions would apply to any committee, subcommittee or working group of Oswestry Town Council, but not to any external group or partnership. It's further proposed that the policy to determine committee places and procedures around political groups is drafted by the clerk in consultation with the mayor and deputy mayor and brought back to council prior to implementation at the next annual meeting in May 2027.
Everyone got that? So we voted on the amendment, so the amendment becomes a substantive motion. Who now wishes to speak on the substantive motion? In that case, I'm taking it's been moved and seconded. All those in favour? Against? 1 abstention. 2 abstentions. Thank you, Councillor Mark Owen. Item 10, OSNOSH. To consider an email received from the directors of OSNOSH attached as Appendix G. Aaron.
So I have to be very careful on this item, not to speak on behalf of OSNOSH. There was a possibility that we're going to come here tonight, but they're not. The mayor and I met with Bex and Donna on Monday, and I think it's fair to say, Mr. Mayor, that we understand their position and their thoughts. But I think the key point is that they don't have the reserves to continue to operate, and there's no clear plan for securing funding. So finance is a key issue for them. I think it's fair to say that they highlighted how much it costs to run the organisation.
They did, yeah.
And we have that figure. I'm not gonna repeat it. So yeah, I think the other point to make is that any funding, because it has been piecemeal and from time to time offers no security, and has been particularly difficult for them. So I don't think there's a great deal I can add. It's really down to members to consider how they wish to progress, or if they do.
Thank you. Councillor James Owen.
Sorry. I think we have to appreciate what OSNOSH has done while they've been able to afford I think it's disappointing just how funding is drying up for organisations such as this. We've got issue in Cabin Lane Ward. There's a similar, or not a similar scheme, but the cafe and the church there is also having to close due to funding. And I think we're going to start seeing a lot of community groups struggling financially, and it's disappointing that funding that has been there in the past is sort of having to be redirected into other schemes, and usually towards urban areas. And as a sort of more rural town and county, we need to again just be frustrated that funding isn't being not funneled, but isn't being passed to organisations that would actually really benefit the residents of our town. And it's compared to something in a larger city is actually quite a small amount of money to keep it going, compared to, even though it's just saving money on a balance sheet further up in government.
Thank you. Councillor Kerr, and then Councillor Radford.
Yeah, I hear Councillor Owen's words, and it clearly is a worrying situation for many people out there. But equally, we are a council with funds, and we have the ability to make choices. They may be hard choices, but we have ability to make choices. And we chose at the budget round to fund things like adoption of highway lights, and we chose to fund adoption of transport plans, even though we're not a transport authority. To my knowledge, we haven't spent any of that money. I would like to actually propose that we seek 2 or 3 members from the council to sit down with yourself, obviously, Chair, with OSNOSH, to see if there's anything we can do as a council to help them find a way forward to maintain, particularly the community cafe they have, but to help them more generally going forward. It would build on what we did actually propose back in the budget round, that we're going to work with the food hub to actually provide continuity in between funding applications. So I'd like to actually propose that we ask from I suppose, a task and finish group, you could call it if you want a term for it, of 2 or 3 members from the council to meet with OSNOSH, with the mayor, and to see whether there's any way the council can seek to maintain their full range of activities in the future.
Okay, just before I take that further, I just want to point out that we have met, and it is financial support that they are seeking.
It's clear that in that context, those members who then report back to council about their views on whether the council should give them some financial support. I'm not saying we do now, but we appoint some members to meet with them and see whether that is in the best interest of the community of Oswestry. This is a hugely valuable service on which many people depend. And rather than just sit there and watch it go under and say it's very sad, other agencies should step in, I think we should step in first as the local agency that governs Oswestry to see if we can assist.
So, I know I've seen your hand up, Councillor Radford. I will come to you in a moment, I promise. Before we take this further, we'll go to Aaron, and then I'll ask, do you have a seconder?
So just for clarity, Councillor Kerr, that was the purpose of the meeting that we held with OSNOSH on Monday, was to understand what they needed from the council, and we understand their timeline as well, which is fairly tight. And so, yeah, you know, if that's what members wish to do, but we did spend an hour with OSNOSH, and did work through the options and do understand what those are. Acknowledge we haven't presented them tonight, but the key issue is they need money, and without money they will not carry on.
Thank you, Aaron.
That's the reason for my proposal, to actually see whether the council should provide some of that funding. I'm being asked about, you know, what my proposal on the last spoken.
Yeah, I would like you to at least, do you have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Mark Roberts. Councillor Radford.
Thank you. The letter, while the outcome of your meeting talks about monetary support, the letter talks about thoughts or proposals that would ensure that the work of OSNOSH is continued in some way. And I think, given they are discussing the idea of having a share table ongoing, I think as a council, without any financial detriment to us in the very least, that we could offer either space within the Guildhall or a market stall as an opportunity for them to share their surplus and earn money from that surplus, because they advertise on a weekly basis surplus boxes and for people to put money, £6 or £8, depending on what you're having. So actually, I wonder whether, under the auspices of a charity, whether they could have a free council stall and undertake that as an opportunity for them. And equally, I would encourage them to look at Oswestry in the wider area in terms of different communities around Oswestry having an access to a surplus table, when perhaps getting to the centre is a challenge for some people. I would also just like to remind people that the outcome of our annual town meeting, when we talked about how we support people in challenging circumstances, was a suggestion that we put together a group of partnerships within Oswestry, including the food bank, including the Cube that are now called, I'm really sorry, thank you, as a way of bringing together groups of people to look at ways of supporting people. And it feels like having Osnosh at the table as well in that discussion would be beneficial for them. Neither of those things are financial, I understand. However, the letter very specifically does talk about thoughts or proposals. So that's, thank you.
So thank you, Councillor Radford. Councillor Mark Owen, then Councillor Wendy Owen.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. First of all, Osnosh, I think everyone would agree, has done a brilliant job over the time it's been functioning. It's very, very worthwhile. I think we have to note that they started off with external funding to the tune of, was it £500,000 or more, or £1 million? It was quite a lot, I don't know the details. It was quite a lot initially. I would hate to think that the proposal would take Oswestry Town Council to try and match that kind of funding on a long-term basis, because I think I would not be in favour of that. Councillor Radford's suggestion, I think, is a good one. Get them in with other groups and see where it goes. We've already decided to do that, and a simple invitation may well lead to something which no one else has thought about. So I can't really support the proposal at the moment. I do support anything that comes in the way that Councillor Radford has suggested.
Thank you. Councillor Wendy Owen.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I also find, I think with the Mayor already having conversations with Osnosh, there's no need to get a separate group of people together to do that. The conversations are already going ahead. And I think Councillor Radford's idea of support and help in regard to like a market bench is a very positive way which we could help straight away with, and money isn't necessarily needed immediately for that.
Thank you. So, does anyone else wish to add anything? So, Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, I think, you know, talking about, I know a little bit about the history of Osnosh, obviously, and you say starting with £500,000. Actually, Osnosh started with nothing, absolutely nothing, and created something. So it's, I think discussions could come in. It's not always about lots of money. It is about ideas, where Osnosh could be, how it can be supported. I think yes, we've got to look at it afresh.
Councillor Borman.
A couple of things. Firstly, to pick up on something that Councillor Radford said about giving them a table for sharing maybe on the market or whatever. Interestingly, I had someone from another charity in town a couple of days ago who said to me they no longer do the Charity Friday market because there isn't really any footfall. Maybe this is something for us to pick up for another day, but suggested, and I'm not saying this is instead of that, but alongside that, that we should actually offer on a Saturday one free market stall for a charity in town and rotate that round. Do we do that anyway?
A free stall.
Yeah, I think the suggestion is slightly different. I think the idea is that we have a dedicated space for a charity, isn't it?
Yeah, on a Saturday, you know, we not on the Friday thing with their free stalls, but just one at a time. I won't say which charity it was, but it's a well-known charity in town. The other thing I get the feeling, because I've had a couple of people involved in Osnosh, is that Osnosh now, and I don't want to name names, but I think they're feeling a bit fatigued, and I get the feeling there are people moving off from it. I know of one person who's going to sort of transfer off to the food bank and stuff, so I think that maybe now that they've reached this point, there is also a little bit of a human side to it, that they think some of the current people think their time is done in being involved in it, without mentioning names, which unfortunate, but I think that's sort of also a very pertinent point.
Councillor James Owen, and then I think we need to sum up.
It was more a question of, you've mentioned you had a meeting and they asked about finances. Clearly, I don't think it's appropriate to air their dirty laundry as far as finances in this meeting publicly. I think without that information, we can't dedicate ourselves to give financial information unless they've come to us through a grant application and asked us for that money. If they there is a process for that already. It's a matter of, I understand that it's a, how do you word it? It's a question of, is the current format sustainable in the long term to provide the service that residents want and have been receiving, or whether they need to sort of have a rethink and then they can come back to it. Like, Osnosh isn't closing down fully, it's just the community cafe aspect. They're having to close to save money and then rethink, and they can come back if they have a business plan that says, if Oswestry Town Council funds this amount, we can get funding from here and then provide that service. I think we'd need details at this level before.
Yeah, and I think the difficult tonight, and as Ian acknowledged, they're not here to answer the questions about the ideas, and they may have thought about them, and we're here proposing stuff when they've got no right to reply and they're not here. So it is a difficult one to deal with. But I think Mr. Mayor, they were very clear, and the challenges to the council, I suppose, is are you willing to consider providing them the finance? Because without that finance, I think it's going to be difficult for them. And if the answer is we need to understand a little bit more before we go through that process, and that's a way forward, isn't it? So we can't conclude this evening, but I think what we're looking for is a next step. And I think you've got, if I remember correctly, you have got a motion and a seconder. Yeah. I think I might need to be reminded of the motion, Councillor. I've forgotten what it is.
Can we sum up, please? The time is short.
I'll repeat the motion. The motion is that to create a working group, task and finish group, if you want to call it that, of members, say 4 or 5 members, I don't mind, from the council to sit down with Osnosh to see if the council was willing, and it's no commitment, but if the council was willing to provide additional funding to that already within its budget, and that would be secured by either taking it from reserves or taking it from other schemes, couldn't there be a scheme which would enable Osnosh to retain certainly the community cafe? At the moment, my understanding is they're selling off their equipment, for instance. Once that's gone, that's gone. So to retain the base, which it would need to be able to grow in the future. So that's the motion. In terms of some of the comments that have been made, I hear Duncan Councillor Bowman's comments. I think people have come and gone. You'll know this more than I will, in Osnosh over the years that I've been. I think that's the natural life cycle of organisations. And just because, there's a couple of people there who are quite new, actually, I think, and there'll be people coming and going, I think our job as the town council is to look at the needs of the town. We have a grant scheme which is for additionality, and we have a core
Can we sum up, please?
set of priorities which we seek to deliver to maintain the health and well-being of this town. I see Osnosh as critical for that, and all I'm asking for is a group of members to sit down. I know you've done your job, but you can only work within the budget. I'm saying this would be potential to explore additionality for that.
Okay, so you've summed up. So
Clark, and I actually know the answer to this, but just so it was mentioned they're selling off their equipment. I think I'm right in saying that the vast majority of equipment that is there actually belongs to the building, and they only own a very small part of it.
I'll answer that myself because I spoke to them about this. It's all the catering stuff that they own. So yes, they can't sell the stuff that's bolted into the centre, but all the catering equipment, and there's quite a lot of it that they own, is going to be either transferred to another charity because they are a charity, or they can't sell it, but it's going to be disposed of because it's not needed. Now they no longer are under community cafe, is my understanding. You may have a better understanding because you met with them, but that's what I have been told.
Okay.
It wasn't the answer I was expecting because I'm told there's only 4 small items that belong to them, but there we go.
So we do have an asset register. That was agreed at the lease. I don't know, I haven't got the detail of that with me, but I would expect that the majority of fixtures and fittings, cookers,
saucepans and plates and cooking equipment, if we're going to get down to it, that will be lost. And there's some cost to that if ever they want to set up again in the future. They'll have to do some renewal base, and it will cost us more to go and trade them.
Right. So it's been moved and seconded. Councillor Radford, do you want?
I would like to make an amendment to the motion.
You can have that during the discussion. You don't have that after the summing up. Otherwise, another summing up and we'd be here all night. I mean, that is the way the debate goes. You have amendments moved as part of the debate, and then I'm taking a point of order to say that is what the Constitution says, and I'm raising a constitutional point. You cannot have an amendment after summing up. You move then to the vote. It was the summing up, so that's what it was.
To be fair, I have said it's summing up and it's 8:45, so all those in favour of creating the task and finish group to meet with Osnosh to find out further information before anything further. Against? Any abstentions? The proposal is lost.
So what's your opinion?
If that proposal's fallen, theoretically, you could propose what you wanted to as a motion.
We've dealt with the matter. We move on to the next item. You can't, after that, have another proposal. Made the amendment, you didn't make an amendment, we now move on to the next item. It's finished. You've got nothing to debate, have you?
Councillor Wendy.
I understand it was to consider the report. We considered the report a suggestion and it was a motion.
Or we can't have this debate.
I'm going to allow Councillor Wendy.
I think we would be able to hear Councillor Radford's suggestion, which would have been the amendment.
I'm going to allow Councillor Radford's proposal to come forward. If anyone wishes to challenge me at a later date, they can do, but I'm going to allow Councillor Radford to make the proposal.
I think I would just say at this point, whatever happens, Aaron needs a way forward, because this has been tabled as an agenda item, and at this point in time, it doesn't have a way forward. And an outcome from this agenda item. Thank you for allowing me to talk. Apologies, Duncan, that I didn't gain quick enough, and that is entirely on me. My suggestion at this point, based upon your discussions that you've had already and the content of this letter, is that in the first instance, we offer an opportunity for them to have a stall on Oswestry Market that can be discussed further to see whether, from a surplus food point of view, that supports them. And I think, secondly, to make it clear that we forward with the concept of a partnership group that is there to support those in need within our community and ensure that OSNOSH is represented by whomever at that group, and that we encourage them to request a grant in the same channels that they have done previously. Those are my 3 requests, and my basis upon the grant request aspect is I am not sure that at this stage they know how much financial support they need, because we are not necessarily the only benefactor of that financial support. There may be more, and therefore at the point at which they are clearer in terms of what financial support they need to continue doing what they do, I think giving them an offering of a grant, absolutely. And apologies, to add a 4th point would be if they would like an opportunity to come and talk to councillors before a meeting in private, to offer that as an opportunity. Those are my 4 points, and I'm happy to.
Yeah, so just not absolutely not a challenge. Just like to meet with all councillors, not open invitation.
Okay. Do you have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor James Owen, who wishes to speak to the proposal.
I'm just worried about, we come up with an idea. I mean, I have no idea whether they think a table on the market is good or not, but to suggest it in the public domain and then put it to them puts them under huge pressure, and they've got limited resources at the moment. So I suppose what I'm asking you to do is maybe we could just put that to them privately, rather than have it passed for a resolution, which if they're desperate for money, they feel obliged to say yes to, because I would if I was them, and they may not be able, it might not be what's in their best interest. I have no idea, but I'm just wary that other groups sit at a closeted hall and come up with solutions for OSNOSH who actually know what they're doing and are doing that on a daily basis. So I don't think we should impose solutions on them, I suppose I'm saying. I think if Councillor Radford is willing just to take that part of it, and I always put that to them, and they can come back with us privately, then it doesn't become part of the formal request of the council that they consider it, which nobody could really say no to, because it sounds very telling them what to do, if I'm being honest.
That's fine. Councillor Radford?
Well, I take Duncan's thoughts, their letter to us, which, based upon the fact that it doesn't have a dear person, is probably a letter to a number of organisations. It does say, approach us with any thoughts or proposals. It's an offer, merely, and an offer that, as a town council, we have done to other organisations in the past, and is something that we publicly have available to us as a resource. So I would keep with my motion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Wendy Owen?
I'll second Councillor Radford's motion.
Okay, moved, seconded. Anyone else before we go to the vote? All those in favour? Carried. Thank you, everyone. Item 11, Oswestry Life Local Hero Awards. To consider a request from the Oswestry Life magazine to once again sponsor the special recognition category at the Oswestry Life magazine Local Hero Awards 2026, and some wording has been added to the request. Does anyone wish to? Councillor Radford.
Thank you. Just an encouragement for councillors to agree for this. It is much like when we ask for Oswestry Town Council to be on buses when we're offering a free bus service. This is another opportunity to remind residents that we care about local people, we care about people that are going above and beyond, and actually doing this and supporting this award and the span, for want of a better word, of Oswestry Life magazine and who it gets out to. I think that's an important way of passing that information on, and that encouragement and appreciation of what our local residents do.
Thank you. Councillor Mark Owen.
Yeah, it's the miser, Amina. Is there somewhere in the budget this can come from?
It's a good job I prepped, and I put a note. It probably could be best to come from the commissioning budget. I think that's probably the most appropriate budget for this.
Thank you.
Anyone? In that case, do you have all those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 12A, Lewid Mansion lottery submission to consider report TC/4428/26. Aaron?
Just collecting my thoughts on this, which what probably is going to be one of Oswestry's biggest projects for quite, well, probably for a generation, and a significant opportunity for the town. And the submission of the application to the lotteries is crucial. There are only 3 recommendations in this report, but all fairly significant. It's establishing and I'll be corrected on the wording, a CIO, which I believe I should have written down as a, yeah. So to establish one of them, to confirm, to recognise that the Clwyd Mansion is going to need some revenue contribution in the future, but this from 2030, 2031. And just to reconfirm your contribution to the capital, this is set out in the medium-term financial plan, but it's extremely useful just for the process that you confirm that. I just also report that we've had the Midlands lottery team here in Oswestry today on an away day, and so there's clearly a very good attachment to the town and to the project, and they've really enjoyed their visit. They're all enthused about Clwyd Mansion, but also to Oswestry, and I think it's been really nice to see that today. So yeah, clearly a lot more work to be done on this. The submission deadline's the 6th of August, and I'd be grateful if you consider the recommendations in there and ask any questions as needed.
Thank you. Who wishes to go first? Councillor Elmet?
Can I just say, obviously as chair of that committee, that it's done an enormous amount of work. I consider the proposals have been extremely well thought through, and I really hope that the council can support them and endorse the vote.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor James Owen?
I'm just happy to propose that we accept all the recommendations.
Okay. Do you have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Elmet. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 8B, Lewid Mansion Partnership Agreement to consider the renewal of the partnership agreement between Oswestry Town Council and Shropshire Council, Appendix H.
So just for the ones who wanted to speak, but it is important that we recognise that we can't do this without the support of Shropshire Council. We do work very closely with them on this project, and they have been extremely helpful. And yeah, it's important that we note that this is just reconfirms that again for the application, and also to say Councillor Radford and I were at the Local Government Association conference yesterday, and we highlighted the importance of this partnership, and we were talking about how partnerships drive regeneration and how this is actually a model of good practice that others could use. So yeah, say no more.
Thank you, Aaron. Councillor Elmet.
I think I'm just clarifying this, but this is basically because the project is going from one stage to the next to the development phase. We're effectively just renewing what's already in place. So there's nothing desperately different about this. It's just because it needs to be in the lottery agreement and we're moving on.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Owen? James Owen? Are you okay?
I'm happy to propose the recommendations as written in the report.
Do you have a seconder? Councillor Elmet. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 12C, complaints to council to note the report TC/4430/26. Anything to add?
No, really grateful. I'm going to say this. Really grateful for the support of Sandra, who collects all the complaints and deals with them, and manages me to make sure that the council do respond. And you can see we do. You can see the eclectic mix of issues that we deal with. But to reassure you that there is a robust process in place, and we do take this stuff seriously. And there are, most importantly, tangible improvements delivered as a result of hearing these complaints and feedback.
Thank you. Who wishes to add anything? Councillor James Owen?
I'm happy to propose that we note the report.
Okay, I'm going to second that one. All those in favour? Carried, thank you. Item 13, reports from the Finance Manager. 13A, analysis of market income, report TC/4429/26.
Respectfully ask Mr Mayor that you, if there are any points that you raise them as part of the discussion later on when at 14C. So I'd be grateful if you just note it for here, and we can have that debate as one if it's needed later. Is that all right?
So just for noting?
Yes, please, if that was okay.
Okay. Councillor James Owen?
Happy to propose that we note this report.
Seconded by Councillor Wilson. All those in favour? Thank you. 13B, sundry creditors, to adopt the below SC 687/26 and SC 688/26. Anything to add? In that case, I move we adopt. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconded by Councillor James Owen. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 14A, report from the Operations Manager, the Estates Report, TC/4431/26. Henry or Aaron or whoever.
Evening, councillors. Evening, Mr Mayor. Thank you very much. So the estate report covers 3 items for discussion, if you wouldn't mind. So the first one's about bus shelters across the town. Within the report, there is a slight amendment because the work has actually been completed following on from actually writing this report. So the bus shelters on Unicorn Road are now complete. There are 3 further bus shelters that the Town Council owns, which are outside Woodside School, on Cabin Lane and on College Road. Within the report, there is some recommendations and some discussion points there. We've had a request from M&S Food Hall to temporarily use part of Smithfield Street car park during their Christmas trading period. And there's a figure within the report of £300, which M&S have confirmed they're willing to cover, which would be the loss of potential revenue on the car park over that period. And then we have in there a proposal to undertake design work to maximise the remaining burial capacity within Oswestry Cemetery. The current state of play within the cemetery is that the current layout is nearing capacity, and this additional space will be required for it to continue being used as a cemetery for future burials.
Thank you. There are 3 recommendations here. Who wishes to speak first? Councillor James Owen.
First, I'd just like to thank Henry for the work that he has done for the Unicorn Road bus shelters. Like, having tried to scrub the graffiti off myself, it was very much soaked in and looked a mess as you're going down, I would call an arterial route from north to, south to north of the town, whichever way you're going. So I had several complaints from residents, and I've already had sort of thanks from them, but it looks a lot better now, so thank you. On the future report, there's obviously 3 more. Is there any current budget that can go into, or is it sort of a recommendation that we do go to forward budget? Like, is there free resource or part of the neglected areas budget that could be used to clean up the remaining 3?
This hasn't been terminated, Rosie, but it might be useful. The neglected area enhancements budget is quite significant this year because you have budgeted for potentially taking on stuff from Shropshire Council. So there's a significant budget in there that could be utilised. Obviously, it poses a risk that if you wanted to do something else, you can't do it. I think the core neglected area enhancement budget was £5,000, is that correct? The bus shelter budget. Yeah, the bus shelter budget was £5,000. So, you know, we could find the money if it was something that you wanted to do relatively straightforward. But it's your decision, obviously.
I saw Councillor Mark Owen put his hand up and then Councillor James Owen.
Yeah, it's nice to see that the bus shelters have been improved enormously. Even though Councillor James Owen had help from a professional painter, I believe. Oh, window cleaner, that's right. Even he couldn't help, and it obviously was not in a position to clean, so the fact it's now been replaced is brilliant. Thank you. I am not really in a favour of tapping into other budgets at this point for this. I do support it because, as I said, the ones currently done, fantastic. I would suggest we stick it in next year's budget in its entirety and complete the job at that point. That would be my inclination.
Thank you. Councillor James Owen?
I would like to propose that we do use the neglected areas budget to replace the remaining 3. I think knowing those 3 bus shelters, they do look scruffy, and I think part of the corporate priorities of this council is to try and uplift the town and make it look a bit better. And I think it is a very noticeable. People stand at that bus stop for probably hours if a bus doesn't turn up, and it is noticeable if that bus stop is covered in graffiti or paint or everything that's covered in that bus stop. And I think it would be a benefit to use the money that Oswestry residents have already paid through their precept to uplift these particular areas, and then we can basically go from a zero base of maintenance wise going forwards, that they're all up to the same standard at the same time, and it allows us to sort of maintain it going forwards without already spending future budgets to just replace what's there already.
Thank you. Does your proposal have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Kerr. So it's your proposal, which is in addition to the recommendations in the report. All those in favour? Carried.
Anybody against?
Anyone against? Any abstention? Apologies, I didn't see your hand go up. Nothing personal. Item 14.
So there's a couple of other items listed now. So the request, the request from Marks and Spencer's to allow them to use the storage temp hire over Christmas.
Apologies, I thought we were going on all 3 at once. That was the idea, or are we doing them separate? Okay, that's right. Okay, fine. Yeah. Okay, carry on.
No, you carry on.
No, yeah. So the proposal on whether or not to allow M&S Food Hall to use Smithfield Street car park for a temporary container at Christmas. Councillor Radford, then Councillor Owen.
I would be absolutely in favour, based upon the fact that we allow that car park to be used for fairgrounds at least twice a year for the purposes of a very busy retail time for Marks and Spencer's, and we should be supporting local retail and accessibility. I think it's entirely appropriate, given that they are also happy to fund the money that we would have lost. I'm sorry, it's really late. But yeah,
Councillor Wendy Owen, then Councillor James Owen.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, I totally agree with Councillor Radford. One query I did have is, as long as they're still just unloading their lorries in their normal place, they're not expecting to unload into the area that they're proposing. That was just one query I had, that they wouldn't think that it would be easy just to go through the car park, because that wouldn't really be on.
I'll certainly clarify that with the store manager. It is my understanding from conversations that there'll be wheeling cages from the current storage facility within the store out to the container. But I'll clarify that with them.
Thank you. Councillor James Owen.
I'm happy to, again, it's a matter of proposing that we accept, but ask that maybe they put some boarding or an advert on it just so it's not a shipping container in the middle of one of our car parks. Again, we're trying to make it sort of look nice in the town, and just a placed block doesn't always go down well.
Thank you very much. Councillor Radford.
the only thing I was thinking is, during the run-up to Christmas, Christmas Live, we fill that car park with amusements. Can't see that we can have amusements and a large trailer thing.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, it's the week running up to, which won't hinder on the events programme that we've got in the town.
Thank you. Anything further? Yeah. All those in favour? Thank you. And then to consider the quotation for design works to support future expansion of cemetery space. Aaron or sorry, Councillor Borman or Councillor Walker? Sorry, it's getting late.
It's just a bit of clarification, really, because I own a business that does topographical surveys. So it's a matter of, you've asked for a quotation, so is that the only quotation, or were there multiple quotations, or not? Because it's just a matter of, I'm not going to vote on it, but I just think it's handy to have that clarification.
Okay.
I'll go out if you want, but it's
it's your call.
So we have received two quotations. The company that we've used that within the report is a specialist cemetery development services company, which is why this quote has been presented to council. We have used them in the past in future reports, specifically around drainage, to deal with the flooding issues within the cemetery as well.
So it also includes a design element to it as well, Councillor Walker.
I don't do any design stuff, but if it was still something that could potentially be going out for quotes, then I would go out the room, because I've got a conflict from a business point of view. If you've already got the quotes and you're just deciding on the thing, then I've got no interest.
Oh,
apart from I know how to do a topographical survey. That's why I'm asking for the clarification.
So we've had quotes and we're making a recommendation.
I recommend we approve.
Councillor Mark Owen.
You know what's coming, don't you?
Seconded?
No. I'm in favour of the design work, certainly. Budget. Is it going to be out this year's budget, next year's budget? Is it allocated, etc.?
So the money isn't allocated, but it is a piece of work that we need to do, because otherwise, without this design work, we have no technical thing of where we're going to put people, and we're going to have to put them fairly soon. So the money will be met from a balance of the existing budget. Is there existing budget in there? And or the service improvement repair reserves.
Okay. So it's been proposed. Okay, sorry. So it's been proposed by Councillor Kerr. I'm going to Councillor James seconding. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 14B, Cross Market Hall Free Disability Study, TC 44/32/26.
So, Mr Mayor, I'm just wondering, given we've spent a long time already and the level of detail that this needs discussing, of whether you wish to do it this evening or whether you wish to take some additional time and think about it. It is a big matter and needs some serious consideration, and I'm just put that to you. However, just in terms of introducing the report, if that's what you want to do, I think what I'm looking for this evening, or whenever you decide, is what are the next steps. What we're not looking and be clear is to say, can you give us 750,000 to put a mezzanine floor in there? But what it is important to highlight is that we can't carry on as we are, because there are other people interested in the building. We need to do something at some point.
Councillor Kerr.
or even the sale of the building, because as it's standing, it's very difficult for anybody to take it on as a viable business. And if they're going to invest in it, they want to know that they can either get their investment back over a period of time or sell the building on with their investment secured in that way. So I'm proposing that we don't progress with putting a mezzanine floor in for that sort of sum. I just don't think that would be in the public interest or in any sense best value for the taxpayer. But we do actually talk to the market about what other interest is there in the building, and can we make that happen?
Councillor James Owen.
I'm happy to second that. I think it's a matter of the current project is to do that, so it's effectively we're closing down this existing project, but I think it's a matter, it does need to be an agenda item coming forward to think of the long-term plans. So I'm happy to second what Duncan has said and hope that it comes back either for details in a committee and then a recommendation to council or to full council directly.
Councillor Radford.
Thank you. Given that it feels like there's no desire to spend an awful lot of money on this project at this point in time, and that we have a tenant currently in there, we have struggled on a long-term basis to find tenants for that building for various reasons. Some of them have pulled out, some of them have shown an initial interest, and that's things have changed for them. It actually feels like, and I'm not really fond of yet more task and finish groups, but it does feel like an opportunity for some councillors to come together and look at different ways of looking at this building. We've either looked at the extent of a lot of money or offering short-term support to a charity-based system, but actually from a long-term plan, it feels like we really need a long-term plan, but that means more discussion, more open, fluid discussion than a motion to council and very restricted discussions, when actually there's probably a lot of ideas. And just as an example, I have a dream, and I'm only Rosie of Oswestry, but you know, that's a building that could be a community use building with multifunctional things like, may I suggest, a pop-up cafe scenario, or a pop-up food share scenario, or a pop-up craft area scenario. There's so many opportunities for the building, but it feels like we've never had an opportunity to fluidly discuss all of these ideas. So while it is a task and finish group, and it doesn't have to be something that meets on an hourly basis or a weekly basis or even a monthly basis, it would be useful to have that opportunity to discuss it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Radford. Councillor Borman.
If that's also a proposal, because I was about to say there's a paragraph here that says starts with members may wish to appoint a task and finish group, and I was about to, from Henry, and I was about to say, yes, why don't we appoint a task and finish group to look at the future use of the building, because, as you say, it's too big to just come back with a proposal and a paper for a yes or no.
I'm conscious that Councillor Kerr's already submitted a proposal. Do you wish to incorporate to it?
I'm happy to make an amendment to his proposal, because I agree with this proposal. Yeah.
All right then.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right then. All those in favour? That looks like unanimous. So we now need to appoint the task and finish group, don't we? So, any nominations? Councillor Radford. Sorry, did I see your hand go up, Councillor Wilson? Councillor Wilson, Councillor Kerr, Councillor Mark Roberts.
We did have this motion came from two absent councillors who might want to wish to see if they would be involved in it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, no limit on membership envisaged. No. I too will add my name to the list as well. Although I'm pretty sure I'm already on it. So. Do we need to accept? We've already. Yes.
The one thing I would say is we won't be meeting until after the summer recess, if that's okay. But what we will do is try and seek some ideas of who might be able to advise us from a commercial perspective, a developer, whether that's somebody from Shropshire Council's team or I'm including, being able to advise on possible sale as well. So. The whole remit.
Funding search to see if there's any likelihood of any funding for such a, depending on use.
that's an interesting question, given that the lottery today said we're always looking for new work and new projects to fund. So that was quite an interesting last line they left in Oswestry. So that's not Rory. That's not if that's all right. If you drop your pencil on that point. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. It's 9:20. Let's see if we can get through these last three items quickly. Sorry? It was just allocation. We don't need to vote. Item 14C, Market Improvement Report and Action Plan. As per Aaron's advice, it is to note report TC/4433/26 from the Operations Manager. Who wishes to speak? Aaron?
Yeah, so what I will do, and this is also about putting actions and ideas forward, and I think the idea of a weekly offer for a charity stall and a dedicated space, so you can say that's Oswestry's charity corner, or whatever we want to call it, might be a better word than that, but is a smashing idea, and if it's okay, we might like to add that to the action plan.
Okay. Anyone wish to add anything? In that case, I move we note. Can I have a seconder? Brilliant. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 15, complaint to the Information Commissioner's Officer.
This is to note, and just ask you to note the timescales involved in there. That I have reported this to you before, back in September 2025, that a complaint had been made. It's now come forward on the 17th of June, giving us 10 days to respond. Which we have done, to give you reassurance, because you've asked about FOI compliance. I have done. I'm not going to give an opinion of whether we're in the right or in the wrong on this. I do believe we have provided the information requested. However, there's no dialogue, there's no debate with the ICO. It's either their opinion and that's it. So I'm a little bit apprehensive about how the outcome might look, but at least I've told you that in advance.
Thank you very much. Councillor Radford?
This is not a comment on the content or the outcome, more a comment on, I just want to note the time that it takes for you and it takes out of your daily work to do these Freedom of Information requests and Information Commissioner Officer requests as well. And I know that they take an awful long time, and I appreciate the time that you put into doing that. So thank you.
Councillor Walker?
Just as a general note, they're sharply on the rise because of AI. It's getting easier to put in really complicated objections and really complicated FOIs, and it takes I know in my portfolio at the county there's a disproportionate spike in officer time taken up with dealing with those.
Okay. Anyone else? In that case, I move we note. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconded by Councillor Radford. All those in favour? Carried. Then last item, public consultation, Police and Crime Commissioner on the police force merger. All right, I move. Yes. Seconded. All those in favour? Carried. Meeting closed. Go with peace and civility. There we are.
Yes, 5 minutes, yes.
Sorry?
Something wrong.
Oh, I'm sure.
Can I just fix the way?
Or one of those rubber things on it.